Hello, bonjour, ça va ma no, forget that. Hello and welcome to a live stream with Lisa Cairns on Boxing Day. Is it Boxing Day? I don't know why they used to call it Boxing Day, because they used to box after Christmas. Oh, boxing, so presents, then you have boxes. Makes sense. When I was in Australia, there was this new movement to wrap your presents with scarves. So part of the present was a scarf as well. I thought that was very sweet. I hope you all had a nice Christmas. This is the first time to live stream. Then welcome. If you've never been on these streams before, then the information is in the box below. And basically you ask questions through Skype, and my Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12, and you can find out information below. Always check my website before my streams, because sometimes I can't make them, or sometimes I'm traveling. So just check to see if the stream is going ahead. I just love language. Isn't that such a cool thing, going ahead? I mean, that's a weird thing to say because the head isn't prior to the body, but going ahead, I suppose your head could be taller than somebody else's, but going ahead means putting the head forward. We are going ahead. I like the imagery that we use in language. I think it's really beautiful. Creates beautiful images. Somebody said the other day, and I hadn't heard this saying before, sometimes you get great sayings from non-native English speakers, and they're translating it from their language into English. And I'd never heard painting castles in the sky. And they meant it, I think, as a form of distraction, like you paint castles in the sky as a form of distraction or something. So that was beautiful. Painting castles in the sky. Okay. So let's go to what the title is today. Title, this took me a bit of a while, so I'm sorry if I was late to live stream. I couldn't quite get this title out correctly. The title is When Can Waking Up Become Somebody's Abuse of Power? It's an interesting title for Boxing Day, especially as it is Boxing Day, you know, you box. I know it's obviously putting away boxes, as I've just thought of, but it could also mean like poof, poof, poof. You never know. It could have actually been the day that people boxed, you know, each other. That's the day that you're allowed to box each other. But first of all, before I do my talks, I always like to sit in silence, because I do believe deep down inside of me on an unconscious level that the only way to wake up is to sit in silence. But you know, I don't like to say that on the surface because I don't want to influence anyone in what they do or don't do. And as when you sit in silence, it earns the universe money, you know, because it does that. I don't like to promote it because I don't want you giving money to the universe when you sit in silence. It's like giving money to the tax man. What does the tax man need it for? What does the universe need it for? Okay. Actually, the reason that I like silence is because it gives me like 15 minutes to pre-think about everything I'm going to say and make sure I say it really well. Hello. I'm ready to talk. I know that was a very short sitting, but I'm ready. I can't help it. I just sat there and I just went through everything I was going to say. I prepared myself. I got ready, and it wants to come out. I'm only joking, just in case you didn't know, because I think that this shows superiority. I do not plan anything I'm going to say, and I just let it come out spontaneously. That is the superior way of communicating. Anyone that pre-plans stuff is less superior. I'm only being silly. Nothing really matters. I'm just having fun. Okay, to the subject. Let me just read the title again. I've forgotten it. When can waking up become someone's abuse of power? So this is such a big subject, and this is a subject that is very interesting, and I don't really have any firm points of view on it. I'm just more open to changing my mind about this subject. So if you go to the extreme of the guru-student relationship, the extreme way, and this even happens in Christianity and all religions, is that there is this extreme part that's that one person, the leader, is speaking out God's will, is speaking God, and everybody has to listen to what that person says, and what that person said is God's will, and so nobody can argue with it, even if it's crazy wisdom. And then you've got the other extreme of maybe like the being the teachings where it's got nothing to do with the person. So the person, what the person does or doesn't do, their actions have got nothing to do with it. So that can't be taken into a more political stance. Like, it can't be about the way humans organize themselves or the way humans hold themselves, because it's got nothing, waking up's got nothing to do with the human. So listening to someone because they're speaking out of more God's will doesn't make sense. And I do agree more with that way. Because I don't think that waking up's got anything to do on the human level. However, I do think that the human can become crazy, can grow into crazy suffering because of its seeking energy. And I do think that settling down that seeking energy can be helpful to be able to hear that more extreme non-duality, but it's not the person hearing it. But if the person is so loud, there's no openness to anything else. So I ultimately think that your freedom belongs to no one and isn't political and isn't about human behavior or reconditioning yourself or what you do or don't do. And it's total and utter unconditioned love. And no guru, no behavior, no way of being can give you that. It's everybody's essence. And that can only be unconditioned love. Everything else is conditioned. So I do agree with that. But I do think that sometimes on the human level, it can be helpful for somebody else to point out your dynamics and guide you through your dynamics, like to be reflected back. So if you're behaving like a twat, which all of us do, and if you're acting from ego seeking energy, someone pointing it out can be super helpful. So like these online talks talking about what seeking energy is and what it does and what it creates and the relationships can be helpful. And sometimes when you're living with your partner who's into the same subject, it can be helpful for you guys to reflect each other back your behavior, or your friends. Like, so if somebody's like really obsessed with something, just pointing that out, that they're getting obsessed with something. But when does that turn into like creating an organization and people living in an organization together and having a guru which has all the power? Like, when does it turn into that? It can happen in relationships. So relationships can be unbalanced because one person in that relationship might have more of the teacher role. So say if you're in a romantic relationship and there's one person that's been listening to these talks or been into this subject a lot longer and knows it a lot better than the other person. And then that person points out dynamics to that person. So say if you've been into this subject for years and then your partner gets into it, you can point things out to them. But when does it become abusive? I would say the line in which it's got to be questioned. So the part where you have to question what your partner's doing, if your partner's pointing out your dynamics, if it helps them get what they want. This is where you have to begin to question it. Not necessarily their way, but what they want. So say with my partner, if they hadn't been helping around the house. So I'm just making this up. This is theoretical. If my partner is listening, I'm not saying that this is like some subtle message about taking out the bins. My partner's job is to take out the bins, and to clean the bins and do all those sorts of things. So say, and he does it very well, so, being diplomatic. So say, so say he started not doing the bins, and I had to keep asking him to do the bins. And then finally he got very angry because I kept asking to do the bins. And then there was a lot of blame put onto me. There might be a coming out, like you're too dominant or you're too bossy. There could be like an openness to exploring on both sides. If we've prior agreed to do the bins, he's to do the bins and then not keep doing it, then I presume it's more than likely lays with him. But there could be an openness at me looking, is it because I'm being too bossy or too dominant? So there's an openness there. And then on his side, there could be an openness to looking at why he gets so reactive or angry if that happens. So this is quite neutral in a way, because this is like couples, but this is like a more conscious couple. So both of us remain open to looking at dynamics, but neither of us are getting a big payoff from those dynamics. I mean, who really cares that much about the bins? If one of us was doing like all the household jobs because it was good for our karma or good for seeking, to see through our seeking dynamics, then it could be questioned because the other partner has got away with participating and getting a lot of pleasure and bonus from it. But if you've got like a fairly balanced relationship with jobs around the house and there's that conversation, that to me seems like a couple just reflecting, and both have got to be open. So I've got to be just as open that I might be being too dominant as to the other one, why they get so reactive about doing the bins. So there's got to be an openness on both sides, because to be closed and shut and definite that it's the other person's problem, I would say is a shrinking thought. It's a closing thought. It's a non-growth thought. To be open to that it might be you're being too dominant and too bossy and too strict, that's a more growth. Than me, I can grow. And if they're open to that, they're like, I'm reminding them of their mum or whatever it is, like, or something like that, that they are open to growing as well. They're open to that as well. And that, to me, seems quite balanced. So where is it begins to go out of balance? I would say, if it's that one is always wanting to be right, so one is always wanting to be right and repetitively is always wanting to be always right, and two, one of the people get huge payoff from the other person believing it's their seeking dynamics. So they get a big payoff, they get a big thing. So they convince the other person to clean all the house, do all the gardening, because they've got to, that's confronting their seeking dynamics because they were lazy or something like that. And that's something gurus do. Like gurus do that. They say you've got to do this or you've got to do that because it's your seeking energy. And I'm not even sure that I'm opposed to that, because that could lead to nice exploration. But I'm opposed to it, I think, if the guru gets a big payoff. So if it's like the guru's constantly having their house cleaned, getting lots of money, getting lots of possessions from the other person, like getting a big payoff, then I begin to think it's unbalanced. Say if you're wanting to have, one person is wanting to have an open relationship and the other one isn't, is the one that's wanting the open relationship going to get a big payoff? Like, is there a thing in their mind they want? If it is, then convincing this one that not having an open relationship is their seeking dynamics, that begins to border on that one of the partners is getting a big payoff of it. It's being used as a trading tactic rather than a true exploration of someone's dynamics. This is where I think you have to begin to be careful. It's okay to point out to each other things, to point out to your partner and to point out to your friends things, but do you get a big payoff if you point it out? Do you get to continuously be right? It's all right to be right some of the time. I've got to say sometimes I am right. But do you get to be right all the time? Do you never have to apologize? Like, do you get to be right all the time? Do you never have to apologize because you're so enlightened it's always the other one's dynamics? Is it always the other one? And there might be in a relationship that there is one that is more wise, but even so, the one that's more wise will still fuck up and still have to apologize sometimes and still have to look at their dynamics too. And if they're not doing that as well, bing, 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 if they're not looking at their dynamics, I would set alarms going off. If they're claiming that they don't have any dynamics left, it tired me out doing that. I'm sure that hurt a lot of people's ears, but it was fun. It was like a what's that breathing called? Forgotten what that breathing thing's called. Pranya breathing. No, I've forgotten what it's called. If you are following anyone, if you're in a relationship with anyone that doesn't have dynamics left, run. I might be wrong, but that would be my suggestion. If they cannot apologize, if you see that again and again and again, why? Why are they taking up that role? Why are they telling people they don't have dynamics? Why are they implying that what they say is always right? That is not balanced. That is not balanced, in my opinion. It's not an easy dance. Like with some people that I become friends with or I'm in contact with a lot and they're maybe new to this subject, I can see a lot of dynamics in them. But it's best to only speak to them about it when they ask, or if they're really, really suffering and they're needing some help. It's too easy to get into a position of knowing better than them, or having this unbalanced relationship. But it's not easy. You have to go with what you feel and be delicate. Well, you don't necessarily need to be delicate when you're pointing stuff out, but be delicate as in reflect a lot about it. And I'm in no way claiming to be perfect. When I'm in an argument, particularly about bins, me and my partner haven't had an argument about bins. He's very good at doing it. But so if we're in an argument about bins, I can have a human tendency to want to be right. But I'm aware of it. If I'm sitting in the position where I'm saying I am right and I have no awareness of it, and I'm continuously pushing to always be right, and I have no ability to reflect on that I'm so enlightened that couldn't possibly happen, it's always everybody else. This is dangerous shit. Humans are humans and they're animals, and our natural tendency as a human is to fulfill pleasure. So, it's easier to be right than it is to be wrong. Easier for us. And you have to have this ability to see the bigger picture of how important it is for all of us to be called out on our shit and be told that we're wrong. Like with my talks, when I do live talks, which I don't do that often, but when I do live talks, there's always this gentle balance of I want people to feed back their disagreement, what they don't like, question things in talk. So I want that. I want people to have that freedom. But it's always difficult because sometimes people do it with such abusive energy. They come up and they ask me a question and they're so mean sometimes with it, their energy, and dominating, and there's a nastiness to it. So when they question something, they come up with when they question me or the way I speak, they come up with a nasty energy. It's it's built, and then it's a blaming, accusatory, and trying to put me down. I remember one time in a talk, a guy came up and he started saying, why should I sit at the front, and why is this and that, and that we should have anarchy. I can't remember, but it was I understood his point as in we shouldn't just accept a dictator leader. We shouldn't just accept a guru. We shouldn't just accept a dictatorship, which can be what a guru is, that they have the final say on everything. So I do have this anarchistic side to me of wanting to destroy these things, but it's also difficult if you've promised people a 2-hour talk and then you've got somebody that's coming with really negative energy trying to put you down. That's not right either. So I find it sometimes difficult in talks to allow people to criticize me, but to do it with not a really nasty energy, do it from a more loving place, because it's tiring also to have people being negative at you. It's tiring, you're doing a talk to a lot of people, and then to have people really negative and interrupting you, that's also tiring too. But I agree with criticism. I agree that people should have opinions and give different opinions to what one person says, because that's what makes everybody's opinion better. That's what makes us grow by these disagreements. Disagreements are important. But sometimes in talks, I do find it difficult, where is that line where people can criticize, but then they're not trying to flatten you with negative energy or offload negative energy onto you. I was trying to think of like a smart way I could do it, like where at the end people could debate stuff, but I don't have to necessarily like partake in that part. So people have the freedom to say what everything's wrong or right with what I said, or say different things, or grow or expand on what I've said. But I don't necessarily have to be receiving like some difficult energies from people, because I do think anybody that's not up for criticism has the tendency, I think, towards abuse and towards dictatorship. And it's not nice receiving criticism always. I don't. I'm okay. I'm okay. I can do it, and I can sit there and I can be harshly criticized in talks. But I do find energetically it's difficult when someone really offloads their like violent energy onto you. But that's a different thing, I think. They're taking out their energies rather than like criticizing from an open-hearted place. But sometimes humans find it difficult to distinguish between these. And if you're having someone criticize you in your talk and you're encouraging people to think and speak for themselves, and it's hard to point out to someone, but you're coming from such a dark place and you're trying to put it onto me, they think that you're trying to get out of them criticizing you. This is partly why I leave the YouTube comments on. I also leave the YouTube comments on because YouTube wants you to. But I used to block them because like that violent dark energy sometimes just used to just not want to be in contact with it. But actually I stopped letting people comment for a while, and then that darkness, like this dark part that can come up in humans, kind of stopped. So people criticize me, but it doesn't come from that really dark energy. They're saying really, really terrible things. So I think that when this whole teaching of reconditioning yourself and not acting out of seeking, and like accepting what's happening becomes abusive when these two dynamics happen. One, the speaker or whoever's teaching you does not take criticism and always has to be right. Always has to be right. And number two, the teacher or the your partner or whoever it is who's guiding you, your friend, is getting a huge payoff from it. So by you not acting out your normal seeking patterns and your normal no, they're getting a huge payoff, whether it be financially or physically or sexually or romantically. Like I got talked in by many gurus to doing things which cross my boundaries. And I'm glad I did it because it taught me things. But I think the most important teaching was actually asserting the boundaries of when things are okay for me and working out when that line is, when things are okay for me and when it begins to turn into them taking too much power or taking. Like it not coming from love. Well, that's all I have to say on that. Hello, hello, hello. We'll take a question now. Just let me make sure the stream is working. It is present and it is working. Hey, Bia. Merry Christmas. Hey, Sam. Hey, Lisa. Very nice to see you. I just looked up. I always wonder. Apparently, tradesmen and women would collect Christmas boxes on or around this day for their good service through the year, like money or tips. Ah. Hi, William. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Happy holidays and thanks again and again. With pleasure, William. I've been seeking so hard for so long and it has made me so tired. I get glimpses so often that they seem to have lured me away from freedom, but I consider them a blessing. My heart is only wanting freedom. I'm so tired of holding this weight and luckily thought my day from time to time. Remember, I am awakeness. It is seen through. When this happens, it feels like I'm infinite space, peering through this person into the world. Please help me see where I am being ignorant here. And thank you again. Love, love, Billy. Everything you think was awakening isn't awakening because it's what you think. So often what happens when we have an opening, there is a big release of bliss or peace or happiness or joy, and we think that's it, but that's not it. It's the emptiness which is looking out. That's what it is. Hello, Stella. Hello, Flavio. Hi, Thomas. Happy Boxing Day. Hi, Osborne. Hi, Jim. Container opinions are the original sin, the source of all suffering. Thoughts considered as relevant distract energy from love. Hi, Koala. Hi, Lisa. What you said today inspires me, one going from falsehood to be more true, and so two paths, one of the experiencer becoming true, I am, and one of the personality gradually aligning with truth. Is that interesting for your talk? Yes, but on the human level, you never arrive. Arrival, so thinking you're enlightened or you're done on the human level, or that you're God on the human level. You are God, everything is God, everything is the divine energy. But thinking you are God as opposed to anything else, or that you've reached God's word on the human level, or it's so difficult because it's like nobody's speaking and it is God speaking out, like it is emptiness speaking. But on the human level, you got to admit you're human. And on the human level, always be inspired to grow rather than to stagnate, no matter what. And what I mean by growing is always being open to new ideas, always being open to new ways, and not believing that you're done or you're finished on the human level. You're never done. You can always be more open. You can always be more loving or kind or generous or change your ideas or grow your ideas. Like human thinking is going to grow, and you've got to grow with it. Like we're going to get more ideas. We're going to get more words. We're going to get more ways of describing things. We're going to invent new things, and you've got to grow with it or you stagnate. I think it's very dangerous on the human level to believe that you are done and that you are enlightened. I think it can lead to abuse of power, dictatorship, false gurus, power imbalances, dysfunctional relationships. Being humble and open to always improving yourself in the relationship is the best attitude. And being open that you could be wrong and that you can improve your ideas and grow your ideas. I think, and being humble. But there can, even in that, there can be this seeing, this emptiness that's looking out, and it is this emptiness that speaks. It's this emptiness which flows. It's this emptiness that does everything. But that's not a human quality as such. That's something that can be there, but the human can still be an asshole, or be selfish. But what tends to happen as that begins to be realized, the human does tend to become more in line. And what happens, or what happened to me on the human level, but God knows if that happens to everyone else, is that there is this like flow of things, this natural flow. And the more and more you follow that flow rather than what you think needs to be, the more peaceful it is on the human level. And I don't always follow the flow of Lisa because of like family dynamics or I don't know how to say certain things to people or something. But there is this flow. A lot of the time Lisa is in this natural way of being. It's really beautiful. And it feels like love and expansive, and it knows exactly what to do. And it knows things so intuitively. Like so intuitively, it knows how to do things or what to do or what to say. It doesn't really need or require much thought at all. Thought can update it and inform it of what's coming or what's happened, but it's really this blissful way of being on the human level. And over the last 8 years, I would say I've got more and more in line with that natural flow of being. It's like this flow that's really here and spontaneous. It's like right in the center of everything. And then on top of that, there's all these other layers, but there's this real natural, grounded, loving, opening flow. But that's not it as well. That's what can manifest on the human level. But there is the real freedom is this emptiness, that there's nothing looking here. Who's looking out of your eyes? Who looks? Who looks? Who is looking? And this beingness, this aliveness, and that's the true freedom. And that's not necessarily the person flowing or not, or person behaving like this or that. Although I found that this subject and the going into your natural flow as the human are really related. Like the seeking energy takes you really away from your natural flow. Like you form this identity and you form these seeking patterns, and it really takes you away from the flow. And after that awakening happens, I feel like you rest more and more in this human natural flow. Like it's like Lisa's got a way of being and a way of knowing information and a way of interacting with life. And it's like coming back to this really natural way of being that's very intelligent. Like it knows a lot of the time things that you think that you need computers or other people to tell you about, but you actually intuitively know it. Hey, Dan Bailey. Hi, Lisa. Merry Christmas from Helen and Dan in Cornwall. Looking forward to seeing you soon in Tiruvannamalai. Nice, Dan. Yeah, happy to see you there. Pranya, that's it, the breathing that I was doing. Boundary setting. It is hard for me to set boundaries when one is suffering from codependency issues. I'm trying to study and learn more about how to deal with this, but it's so tough. Manipulating or expressing to get what I want, also caring to be a good human to others and respect their needs and wants. It's all so confusing to me. Yeah, just bit by bit, Isabel. It's like, don't try and be on top of the mountain when you're walking up the mountain. Like, you're just learning about it bit by bit. Like, so you don't need to rush it. You'll begin to get the hang of it more and more. Like, and you'll begin to understand your boundaries and what you need to set and what codependency is. Like you get an idea in your head, and what we want to just take one big bite of the sandwich and to have eaten all the sandwich in one go, and it's just relax. Just you find out information, you build on it day by day. Like almost what you're doing is you're setting yourself up. You're like, it's so confusing for me, it's so overwhelming, it's so big, and it's like you've failed already when you're just learning about it. It's like, give yourself some time. I've been at French for 2 years. Well, I've been here 3 years, but I'm trying to learn it for 2 years. And I feel like I'm doing very well, but I it's patience. Every day it's patience. I pick it up again and I start again. It's an easy dynamic to get lost into. Like, it's so overwhelming, it's so big, I can't do it. It's just bit by bit. Rome wasn't built in a day. That's a very wise saying. Rome wasn't built in a day. Your mother's been saying that to you your whole life. And you ignore it, you're like, yeah, what does the mother know? But it's a very good saying. Rome wasn't built in a day. You just do it bit by bit every day. And this is like for lots of things. Like, I'm on the psychological level, I've become very wise, But that's actually, I'm a non-duality teacher. I'm not a psychological teacher. But so say if you've got like a basement that's really messy, what our brain will do is it will think about how messy it is and then be too overwhelmed and never do anything. So it'll just build and build and get even worse and worse. And that's like the wrong attitude. You just got to break it down. So you just do a tiny little section each day. And then, in like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, you'll be done. But our mind looks at things, it's like too much. Too much. You just have to break things down smaller to little bite size. Looking at things like, I've got to learn it all now, I've got to clean the whole basement now. So when I'm doing my cleaning, which I try not to do because I do try to employ a cleaner, I know that makes me very spoilt, but my cleaner often doesn't come though, so I do have to do the cleaning. Like, I want to employ a cleaner, but often I can't employ a cleaner because it doesn't happen, it doesn't work. But sometimes we get into a flow where she comes regularly. But when I'm doing the cleaning, I do it in sections over like 2 or 3 days. I don't have a very big house either. It's like, well, first day I hoover, and then that's doable. Next day I do the dusting, and then that's doing And then the next day I do the mopping. Actually, I normally do the mopping and the hoovering together, or vacuuming if you're American. You just do it in tiny little chunks. You don't have to do everything perfectly straight away. That's what makes you stuck. It's the power of the imagination. You see, what I do with the cleaning is, I've got to be honest with you, I don't pay for it. I convince somebody that comes to my talks that they will release karma if they clean my house and do my gardening. Now, come on! In whose world does that sound okay? So why do people do it? It might be okay if somebody's like holding a retreat and you have people supporting you or helping you with that retreat, for because they believe in it, like something like that, and it's not producing loads and loads of money. But if it is producing loads and loads of money, then that's a different subject. But yeah. And trust me, this is really, really common with teachers and students. This is really common. This isn't just something that you watch on TV, or it's really common. Hi Lisa, you are looking beautiful and fair as ever. Thanks, Amita. Thank you. I look beautiful and fair. Does that mean fair as in like I look like I'm a fair person, or does that mean fair-skinned? I am a very fair person, except when it comes to eating the cake. Then, we have to negotiate. I like my food. Hello, Vadiots. Got no more questions. Very good. In my case, creativity helps me balancing things. So considering opening to nothing, where when creativity does stop, because up until then it has always helped me to grow spiritually. In other words, what is beyond the beyond of creativity on the way to awakening to nothing? I think that often when people are being creative, they aren't someone being creative, they're disappearing in that. And that's what they love about it. Is so in that moment of being creative, you're not about where can you go or what can you get from this or who are you, you're just creating. So I think in that creativity there's often a taste of it. Lisa, the eye that is watching, that is the personal awareness. The universal awareness, when there is no separation and is the same. Then what is the difference and the separation? How can both awarenesses be one? So actually personal awareness isn't alive and watching, it's not conscious. Personal awareness is when you focus your attention. So you can put personal awareness on me, or you can put it on the room, on the lamp, on the computer, you can put it on the table. But the consciousness, the big consciousness, is that which knows it, is that which is conscious of everything instantly. So right now, your personal awareness is focused on me, but there's a consciousness of the wall, there's a consciousness of the chair, there's a consciousness of the sound of my voice, and all of it is happening. The personal awareness is the movement of the lens. So it's a movement of the camera, you can move it around. But the big consciousness just knows everything instantly. It's beautiful. Will it be a retreat in France this summer of 2019? I'm not sure. I think it might be in Germany. At Bill's place, Asborn, I think. We haven't set it 100% in stone yet. We've still got to discuss it. So it'll be close to you, up north. Where do you get titles from your talks? And if you like people questioning you, I got one, hopefully from a loving place. When you often talk about the problems with other speakers and gurus that can occur, what place does that come from? Correction, it does come from a loving place. When I talk about other gurus, on one level, it's just spontaneously coming out from nowhere. Then the other level, today, it's often inspired to something that's happened that day, like maybe a one-to-one session I've had with someone, or maybe a conversation. And I think this talk was inspired from dinner I had last night with friends. We were talking about this subject. And it percolated, and then here it came. I don't mean anything against other speakers, and I don't mean to be comparing myself to other speakers, but it concerns me sometimes. It doesn't concern me, but I just feel compassion sometimes for the sex and the guru thing, to be honest with you. can also be the money and the guru thing as well. Yeah. I just feel compassion for it, because I think it's something that gets mixed up with non-duality, and it's not anything to do with non-duality, like having open relationships or closed relationships or someone's sexuality. Like, I speak with a lot of people, and a lot of people that have been around gurus for a long time, and I never try to speak to directly. Concerns me people getting into powerful positions and using those powerful positions to get what they want. There's nothing wrong with being in a powerful position. It happens, but it's then, what does that power lead you to do? You can use that power over people, or you can use that power to help people grow. And this is the place where it begins to concern me with non-duality. And I don't know if I've come to any like firm beliefs in it as such. And I'm questioning now, so the reason I'm going slow is like my need or want to talk about other speakers, because I generally don't speak about other speakers, because I generally don't want to use any tactic that's like, they're not so good and I'm so much better, that's why you should listen to my talks. Because I actually believe in my heart that it's good that you listen to a variety of speakers and not just one speaker. And I really believe that that's a healthy way to do it. You don't have to listen to so many that you're confused all the time, but like a variety is good, because then you hear it from different angles, and it's good most probably to pick speakers that are quite different, because there is no truth. And that's the difficulty that people have when they get into this subject, is they're looking for truth and something to follow and stability, and that's not what non-duality is about. It's about seeing that nothing that you think or believe is true or the way it is. What is true is what's happening, which cannot be named and cannot be grasped and cannot be put into a container. Gosh, that was so much love. I just came out with so much love. It cannot be put in a container. And that's beautiful. And with all my heart, I recommend that. Like I don't want to keep anybody. Khaleesi. Can you hear her barking? I know her so well, I can tell you what she's barking at from that bark. And that is a cat bark. It's a very desperate bark. She is not afraid of what she's barking at. Like when it's like a human, like she's more afraid, so it's a backwards bark, that's a forwards bark. I spend too much time with Lisa. It could have actually been a magpie. I've noticed that she's getting funny with magpies and crows because they come in and eat her bones. And they take them away sometimes, and I can see that she was watching one in the tree the other day, like agitated, like, you come and you land, I'll be on you. She makes me laugh. Fighting for justice, eh? That's okay then. I don't know if I'm fighting for justice. I just feel this compassion in my heart. Like I meet so many people and I wouldn't directly say anything to them. You know, it's that person's job to work it out, but I want people to grow and to not be hindered by dogmas. But, you know, maybe that's a dynamic in me, like a dynamic in the Lisa character. Who knows? Is the universal awareness still silent and spacious? Is it nothing, I mean like unknowing, or is it unattached, looking awareness? Please, can you clarify? Is it universal awareness still silent and spacious? Is it nothing, I mean like unknowing, or is it unattached, looking awareness? Please, can you clarify? Is it universal awareness still silent and spacious? Yes. Tick, tick. Is it nothing? I mean like unknowing. Yes. Tick, tick. Or is it unattached, looking awareness? I don't know what you mean. The difference between all of that and unattached, looking awareness. I mean, what's the unattached, looking awareness? It's like just floats off because it's not attached to the body. That bit I'm not sure about. But the other ones, I mean, I'm taking it as a joke. It's also like not that as well. It's complete mystery. But yeah, I mean, we can call it that. Any suggestions for negotiating with the wife who goes ballistic when I listen, watch you? Oh yeah? Why does she go ballistic when you watch me? Because I'm a woman, or because she doesn't like non-duality? I'm a blonde woman who wears pink, or because of non-duality? No response. There is a quote from painter Phil Guston that says just that. I believe it was John Cage who once told me, when you start working, everybody is in your studio. The past, your friends, enemies, the art world, and above all, your own ideas, all are there. But as you continue painting, they start leaving one by one, and you're left completely alone. Then if you're lucky, even you leave. Philip Gaston. Oh, that's nice. Thanks, James. How to don't get involved into other people's intrigues and dramas. How stay distanced, like the sweater. That's part of being human, is other people, being with other people, and dramas and not dramas and this and that. You have to look to see what's in you which attracts you or holds you in them. Like, what I think, the way how it manifests in the human is that it's not that you come to just peaceful existence where everybody's peaceful and there's no disagreements and there's no issues. It's that you become so unattached to the issues that when they come up, they just pass through. So it's like somebody tells you off for this or that, and you have a reaction, you're like, and then it's over. That's how I feel it works. I feel like it doesn't work like you just become detached from everything and unresponsive and always in peace. I feel like it's like you're fully human, and you most probably are more balanced and nicer and happier human, but you're fully human. Like, so you get grumpy, you get upset, you get sad, you get happy, you get excited, you get tired, you get sexual, you get not sexual, you get all these things, you get selfish, you get stingy, you get generous, all these different things that we can be. And then it's like there's no attachment to them. They're just passing through, like plump, plump, plump. Just passing through. Isn't that really cool, that saying? Like passing through. Passing through what? When did we develop that saying? Is that like talking about the digestion? It's passing through the body. So we talk about behaviors passing through now. 2 last videos on Buddha at the gas pump is about teachers and ethics. Sorry, I just heard Khaleesi again. Just going to annoy the neighbours as she carries on with her barking. Khaleesi! Khaleesi, come! Yeah, but then also, I used to belong to a Buddhist group as born, just to contradict everything I said, and they used to have so many ethics and precepts and ways of being that it was very complicated. So ethics can be a bit of a hindrance as well. Like, I feel that the answer to everything, I might be wrong here, we can never quite tell, but I might be right, you don't know. I feel that the answer to everything is that you collapse more and more into your flow, and your flow has a natural like love to it. So it's not like the more you collapse into your flow, like your feeling is love, and you're not acting like out of hatred or selfishness so much. Well, definitely not hatred, but like contracted energies so much. Even though they can come up, you're not acting out of them, and your behavior becomes nicer. And I think that you'll also become less reactive and more open to being wrong. I think a really important part of ethics is actually us fucking up and accepting responsibility for it and moving on. I think this is a big part of ethics. Like to try to live by an ethical code is actually stressful, because you've got to try and remember all the ethics, and I feel like there's a more intuitive place where you can act from the ethics. And I feel like if you're open, then your environment will tell you and you're behaving inappropriately, and then you can accept that, like not get really reactive and believe you're right and it hurt your ego because you're being told, but you can accept people's feedback easier and you can adjust more to the group. Like, I feel like we've got this more natural way of being rather than like this really intellectual, like you've got to be taught this and taught that. And I feel like that's quite ethical. And then I also think other people will tell you when you're being an asshole. And it's important to be open to it. And I think that as you go more and more into your flow, you are more open to people's feedback and hearing people's feedback, and not be arrogant about what you think you are or believe yourself to be. Like if we speak, if I were to say to somebody, you've got to not do a behavior, like you've got to not, and you've got to live by this code, actually I think it can make the mind obsess on something. Like they get obsessed and then they becomes impossible to stop it. I feel like there's another way to do it. That can also be good as well, sometimes, like learning not to do something. But what's been most successful in my case is this natural flow, like feeling that, like I feel so much love, like I want other people around me to feel love. I don't want to contain them or put them down or be horrible or be mean to them. I want them to grow, and I find it so beautiful, like seeing someone grow and shine and be independent and having positive thoughts. I want that for them. But I also can be human, and I can be mean sometimes and selfish and lazy. And I'm grateful when people point that out, that I'm doing that. I might not always be in the very moment. It's like a painful when someone says that to you. I think one of the most important ethical codes, if we had one amongst humans, is accepting feedback from others, the power of the group. Not just one person, because that person might have like a particular agenda, like a group of people. Okay, on and on I go. I'll have changed my mind by next week as one. I'm a Gemini, I tend to change my mind. Lisa, if as a very young lady had been able to hear you speak even these few moments today about abuse of power by the guru, it would have saved my life. Really saved me so much heartache. Thank you for speaking this way. Yeah, Isabel. I really hear that. Oh, thanks, Isabel. So basically, I don't think I read what she said very clearly, because sometimes a little slow when I read things, but I just read this. Lisa, if a very young lady had been able to hear you speak even these few moments today about abuse and power by a guru, it saved my life. Yeah. Yes, I hear that. And it's not just about the guru, it goes into society. Goes into society as well. You see, this is where I think the ethics come into it. When someone does something for power, sex, or money, this is the line where it can become abusive. When someone is doing something because of their heart, because they love it, this is different. They are getting their juice from doing it. They are getting their juice. It doesn't mean that you don't do, like I do this and I get money, like I do sessions and I get money, and that is so wonderful. But there's some part of me that just loves expressing this subject and I write stories and I do plays, and I'm not doing it because of power I hold over people, or because of money, or because of having sex with lots of young men, even though that is a great fantasy to have 10 Chippendales. No, that's a total joke. That's really not on my radar, I don't think. It's not come up on my radar so far to have young Chippendale men. But I've never been confronted with, say, 10 Chippendale men, so I can't guarantee that. Then, you know, you've got these two different things. And the thing is that most people in these powerful positions are doing it because they like power. And that's what's motivating them. They like having power over people. And it's your job to distinguish the differences. And I can only lead you to the water. But whether you drink from it or not is down to you. So, okay, so let's be logical. How do you distinguish the difference between somebody that is after power and somebody that's doing it for passion? I would suggest a very important quality is somebody being able to reflect on the fact that they're not perfect, that they make mistakes, and that they have issues too. Like they're not that their way isn't right. That's what I would suggest. However, you know, the thing is humans feel safe around someone that always says they're right. And humans have a tendency to look up from that, because that is what helped us survive the last couple of thousand, well, since the beginning of time. Having a very sure leader helped us to survive. Somebody that was like, yeah, could be. It wasn't very good for survival. But we're now at this place in society where we don't have to just be fighting for survival anymore. We really nailed survival. We've nailed it so well that we're maybe over surviving. We can't afford to pay for everybody. I have to go for the toilet. I apologise to you gentlemen and ladies. I also apologise. I do call people guys, and I have had it reflected back to me that is the inappropriate way to call people in the 21st century. You don't just call human men. Guys is men. You don't just say men. This is inappropriate. I apologise for the amount of times I've said that, because I said that many times, but it's a tendency that I have to say because I'm used to saying that, and I am trying to recondition myself. Excuse me.